everyone. Happy Friday. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to this weekend. But what's standing between the weekend and you? Techstrong Gang. Hey everyone, happy Friday. It's Alan Schimmel for Techstrong. As I mentioned, we're what's standing between you and the weekend, you're in for a treat because we've got a great show today. We are, Google's running to mama to get Microsoft in trouble for some antitrust over in Europe. We've got the battle of Cloudflare and the AI bots, and I think I may make my professional singing debut covering an old Styx song, or maybe not. We'll see. We've got a lot to talk about. Let me introduce you to our gang members for today. First of all, joining us from high up in his perch in the Rocky Mountains. I don't know how high he is. It's early in the morning. But high up in his perch in the Rocky Mountains, it's our CTO and Futurum CTA, Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitch, welcome.
Fantastic to be here. I'll do harmony on your Styx song.
You know what? I couldn't think of a better person, Mitch. Thank you.
I'm here for you.
I always welcome. Joining us is a relatively new member of our gang. She's not really wearing her gang colors, but we don't really have gang colors. Who am I kidding? I'm going to try to get her name correctly. It's Anne. Anne, you're going to have to help me.
Anne Ahola Ward. It's okay.
Ahola Ward.
Ahola. Yep. You got it.
All right. Hey, Anne.
Hello.
Anne, you're joining us from Austin, Texas, helping to keep Austin weird. But for folks who maybe aren't familiar with you, Anne, give them a quick background.
Absolutely. I'm CEO of an agency I've been running for 15 years called CircleClick. I'm also a published O'Reilly author. I wrote the SEO Battlefield in 2017. I'm a TV tech pundit. I've been on TV over 90 times talking
Fantastic.
about tech. I'm a tech.
All right. We're lucky to have you on here, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then finally, joining us from, in his kingdom of Silicon Valley, the czar of Silicon Valley. No, it's not Alexander. It's our own roving editor extraordinaire, Jon Swartz. Hey, John, how are you, man?
Hey, Alan. A little bit of a eventful morning here. First, I had a dream that I overslept and missed the show. And then when I was just getting ready to prep, I heard a blood-curdling scream downstairs. There's a little black mouse on the loose in our house right now. So if you hear another scream, my wife, a little black mouse running around, scurrying around. And so if you hear another scream, that will be my wife, Jackie, trying to avoid it.
I got to give you a lot of credit, John, because if there was a black mouse crawling around my house and my wife was screaming, I don't know if I'd have the ability to sit still here for a Techstrong Gang. She'd probably have me.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Okay. If you got to leave, I understand you got to leave. It's all good. Okay. Well, with that, let's jump into our Techstrong Gang for today, guys. I mentioned it earlier. I don't know. You know what? Google running to the EU to file a complaint against Microsoft Azure for antitrust. Of course, they're going to the EU because they're forum shopping. The EU's a lot friendlier to this kind of stuff. But John, what's your take on this one?
You stole my thunder with your opening statement, Alan. I thought the same thing. If it's Tuesday or Wednesday, it must be Belgium because these companies go running to Brussels in the EU and complain about one another. This has become, there's a little bit of a twist that's going on right now. So in a sense, Google has filed this lawsuit about Azure and its dominance in the market. And in a sense, what it's doing is kind of taking the place of the government in the US. And I think Google, from its own experience, which has been fined multiple times, billions of dollars by the EU, is now taking that tact. In a sense, I think there's a little bit of revenge involved in this because Microsoft, for the last several years, has played the holier-than-thou white knight in all of this tech regulation field. Brad Smith, in particular, has spent a couple of years pointing out all the flaws that Amazon, Meta, Google, etc., have perpetrated. and that Microsoft had learned from its mistakes with the Department of Justice back in the 90s and early 2000s. So in a sense, this is a little bit of payoff. I don't think this is going to evolve to much. I think if it does go to a court, it will take years. And I think we're going to have just a back and forth battle between the two companies. This is all about marketing and about market share. Microsoft has done some things that were pretty dicey, but in a sense, this is as much for show and revenge motivated as anything else.
I couldn't agree more with you, John. I think that they couldn't get what they wanted privately, and so they're doing it publicly. And we both know that Google and Apple are the absolutely most fined by the EU of any of the big
Apple
companies.
Exactly.
So it's a little petty. I mean, the way that people see Apple and Google now, I saw Microsoft when I was in at University of Texas. I remember Apple Desktop Bus was the, protocol you use to connect mouse and keyboard, and then it switched to USB. And I remember gamers, and lots of them around me, saying, hey, this Microsoft isn't following the standard. Apple followed the standard USB. And Microsoft didn't, and it took a lot of lawsuits to get them to do it. They didn't play nice. They were the big giant that we now look at, these other companies. Google was a little startup to me. So it's just interesting how that's shifted, what 20 years can do.
Yeah. This to me is, you remember back in Lord of the Rings when they need to take the pass to go over the mountain and the stone giants start their battle, the Titans are crashing against each other. This is just stone giants, exerting their pressure on each other. That they give it to it, they receive it. It's back and forth, whether it's coming from regulatory agencies or let's get you back in the spotlight.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I think Lena Khan from the FTC and maybe Jonathan Cantor from the Justice Department are smiling, because in a sense, this goes back 5 years, right? Even to the Trump administration when they started murmuring about this idea of filing these antitrust actions against the most successful companies in the world, because it's very popular and bipartisan now to rip big tech and to go after it. In a sense, now they must be smiling because now the companies are turning on each other. And I'll just throw this one thing in, is that a few years ago, I read a story about how Microsoft, in a sense, was playing, as I said earlier, the holier than thou card. And I talked to Amazon, Meta, Google, Apple, all on background. They all told me the same thing. They said basically that Microsoft was trying to make hay from their issues with the government, and that Microsoft, in a sense, was kind of almost an extended mouthpiece of the government. And I know this is kind of like this proverbial can of worms that we open up about regulatory issues, Alan, and it's kind of becoming now a little bit repetitive, redundant, whatever you want to call it, and it's getting a little bit out of control.
To me, this is Mr. Pot say hello to Mr. Kettle. And if you read the article that's up on Techstrong.itsm, I think it makes reference that AWS might be doing something here too, joining in or filing a separate sort of claim. Here's my take on it. Mitch, it goes to kind of your analogy on Lord of the Rings. These three titans are going to do whatever they can to lock in whatever advantages they can. But the thing about, if you go back to Sherman antitrust and the whole thing about monopolies, is that you have a company that is a monopoly and therefore there's no competition, viable competition in the market. They shut down viable competition in the market. The very profile of AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft being as big as they are, and in terms of revenue and size and footprint, almost on its face says timeout. This is a competitive market, and these guys are just reaching. I would be more, from a legal point of view, more sympathetic, more likely to say, hey, Microsoft, what you're doing here is monopolistic. If it was some up-and-coming cloud company who couldn't break into the market, they'd probably wind up suing all three of these guys because collectively they're shutting people out of the market. And I think that's really where the antitrust here lies.
Alan, what this makes me think of, kind of thinking forward, and love to get your perspective on this. It seems like the next battlefield is going to be AI built into the operating system and the unfair advantage that it gives Apple with their OSs, with Microsoft with Copilot Plus. And now you have other application providers, cloud providers for apps that are running on local devices. It seems like that's the next battleground of they're going to be fighting over, well, you already have it built into the operating system. You have an unfair advantage, at least to do inferencing at the edge. I don't know, Anne, what you think about that.
I mean, I think so much of the operating system has been eaten by the browser. I mean, we're doing so much more of our work these days in the browser. So the lens I view these things through is search. I'm an SEO. AI overviews are now in 17% of Google searches. There are, threats of an AI search engine, OpenAI. I think that the way that consumers will see it first is going to be through search. And these bots that are supposed to be so much better, they're not. Consumers are going to push back. But I do think that, yes, absolutely, that's the next great arms race.
But we've already had an antitrust industry pop up over the browser, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Apple's got an antitrust against them, right? Not for AI, but
for Safari,
Yeah, their app store and policies and things.
Yeah, the irony is and Alan referenced this, is that in Europe, for instance, these cases have kind of gained traction when the smaller competitors went after Apple and got them in trouble. So there is a precedent. That makes sense. Well, it's very hard to build up any form of sympathy when you have these behemoths who each own at least 20% of the markets pointing fingers at each other.
Right.
So yeah, with AI, we're going to keep probably going through the same cycle too, probably with Microsoft and Google being banged or being accused.
Sympathetic plaintiff.
Yes.
No.
It definitely reminds me the very first time I did a trial. 3 years out of law school, I get to do a real trial, personal injury case. My client is a female attorney, and she didn't make for a sympathetic plaintiff at all. I'll tell you about it over beers sometime, but suffice to say, my judge was blind. I kid you not, he was blind. And my whole case was based on pictures. And I had nothing left to do but put this woman up on the stand. And the jury did not warm up to her. I settled before the verdict came in. But anyway, you've got to learn, you got to play the room. You got to read the room, as they say. And this is...
Yeah, there's so much lobbying going on behind the scenes here. These companies are becoming like the gun lobbyists. They're putting as much effort into the legal side as they are on the technology side. That's an overgeneralization. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah. Well, because
it is so important.
Every 10th of a point of market share here is big money, and that's what you're dealing with. I think we give them dueling pistols and tell them, whatever it is, 20 paces and fire.
That might be the easiest solution. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. But I generally speaking, it's not sympathetic, Google. It's not a good luck. Anyway, I think that's enough if no one has anything else on this one. Let's take a break right here on The Gang. We're going to come back, and speaking of dueling, we have Cloudflare versus the AI bots. So stay tuned. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
In a world where every line of code powers the future, every keystroke can introduce new threats. As software evolves, so must security. It's time to rethink how we protect our digital world. Join the leaders in DevSecOps and AI at the OpenText DevSecOps Virtual Summit on September 24th. Discover how innovation is transforming software delivery faster, more secure, and smarter. From AI-driven security to the truth behind cloud security, get the insights that will keep you ahead of the curve. Don't just watch the future unfold. Be part of it. Register now and secure your place in tomorrow's world.
All right. Hey, we're back here at Techstrong Gang. Cloudflare recently celebrated a birthday and anniversary. I don't know. Does a company have a birthday?
Anniversary.
Yeah.
Anniversary, birthday. I don't know what the right word is.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, from its founding, though. And actually, I remember when Cloudflare was founded, believe it or not. Back then, there weren't a lot of big CDNs out there. And of course, Cloudflare is so much more than a CDN now. But they celebrated by releasing a bunch of new tools. Mitch, you were following this one. You want to give us the scoop?
Yeah, very much so. There were really two categories of things that they announced. One was a lot about AI, and if you want to take that, I'll take the security side of it, and maybe a little bit of why they're doing that. They actually made a number of tools free for Cloudflare's going from CDN to this cloud with lots of services in it to we do a show with them called the Last Great Cloud Transformation. It's really about a connectivity cloud that's programmable. People can connect to it, where they're adding we're opening up a lot of security services, things that people can use for free. And of course, free is great, especially when you build your network around it. All of a sudden, you might become a customer. But they have some things around public key, private key exchange. There's a standard coming out about key transparency, which is actually publishing your public key instead of holding on to it, because that's what you use to initiate the communication to try to get around man-in-the-middle attacks. Like, okay, you already know my public key. You don't need to do a man-in-the-middle attack to try to take it over. But there's some free threat research. They've got some DNS tools, HTTP secure, like a bunch of stuff that will be helpful to both networks as well as software developers building apps, leveraging their cloud, and a whole bunch of AI stuff. You want to hit on that, Anne?
Absolutely. I think that really what this announcement signaled to me is that they're course correcting all the AI scraping and bot blocking. They're helping sites identify and block bots and label bots, which I think is great. As an SEO of many, many years, I will say the robots.txt was typically a sort of tacit gentleman's agreement as to how a site's content would be treated, right? I don't want you to crawl this directory. I don't want you to look at this. Please no. That does not exist in the world of AI. It's all the content all the time. It's all for us. We're scraping it for our models. And so this is a counterattack to that, which I appreciate on a systemic level. I think the other thing that is extremely exciting to me is that they also announced the intention to launch a marketplace. A marketplace would definitely solve a lot of problems in these content creators who are, it creates like a broker relationship where even if you're not being paid as a content creator, at least you get recognized. I think that content creators getting paid has been a problem as long as content creation has been a thing. I don't know that this is going to fix that, but it seems like a nice counterattack towards getting us there to at least acknowledge that you're stealing. That these companies are stealing, they're going to be labeled and possibly thwarted. So I think that that's exciting on a bunch of levels. I don't know what the time frame is for the marketplace. They didn't really announce it. But I think that is going to help a lot of the tide turning.
And they also announced something called SpeedBrain. Those who are in the back end inside the network using AI to predictively cache, get you to the cache of the content you're most likely to visit next or look at next. So they're using AI in their network too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like supposed to speed it up like over 40%, which is pretty incredible. Cloudflare is a great company. I definitely recommend them to clients. I think that they're have made some interesting and bold moves over the years. The first CDN I ever used was Akamai. I wonder if they're still around. I bet they are.
Oh, yeah.
They seem to be doing okay.
I think they're doing all right.
Let me weigh in here. First of all, full disclosure, Techstrong is a Cloudflare client.
And I didn't
And a customer too, by the way. So
I'm a customer. I've been a customer for years.
They protect it, and I've got to tell you that bots are a major PIA for us here, right? Both malicious bots as well as whatever, all bots are malicious in some way, but even non-malicious bots. The resources they consume and they're just a pain, right? And Cloudflare does a great job with them. We have seen an onset of AI bots over the last year and a half. And again, we've been trying our best to filter it, and this should make life a lot easier. And then secondly, we're a bit of a content provider. We have, I don't know, 10 different titles between video and written, textual. And, I'm fed up and don't want to take it anymore that all of our content has been stolen by AI training, LLM providers for their models. And we haven't gotten a red cent, let alone a mention, right? I mean, DevOps.com alone, I think, has over 40,000 DevOps articles. And every single one of them, I bet you, has been,
over 7,000 videos, over, security, all
I say high time for this. High time. And Mitchell, that means something else to you in Colorado, I know, but I say high time for this. And, we've got to do something about it. But I should also mention Mitchell and I actually co-host a new show sponsored by our friends at Cloudflare called The Connectivity Cloud, where we talk about really, as this cloud, the show's called The Last Great Cloud Transformation. And it, talks about moving from just the core cloud provider, cloud centers to the edge, to endpoints, and the connectivity and security involved there. And this is, right in that sweet spot. How do we secure this and make work on latency and all these other things? So, and I agree with you. Cloudflare's always been a pretty innovative company. Not to diss Akamai, they're pretty innovative too. Mitch, I know
they're doing some great things also.
Yeah,
right.
from an
right.
analyst.
They paved the way. That's what we used when I was a developer at Apple. I would say Cloudflare caught my attention in the early 2010s because they were speaking at a conference the CEO was, and my good friend had put together a PR proposal for them and was very excited about having them as a client. And so she came with me to watch the CEO speak. And he announced in his speech, we're going to just go transparent. We're not hiring PR.
Yeah. Well,
my friend found it.
Your friend quickly kind of slinked out and said, okay, I'm out of here. What's Akamai doing? But, they both, Cloudflare, I forgot what the number is, Mitch, you may remember, but Cloudflare, something like 20% or maybe a little more of the internet goes through Cloudflare. I think it's a similar number.
It's right. It was that. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah, Akamai's probably right there as well. They both do a decent job with security. Interestingly, they both aspire and have become more than a CDN.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and just
I think
to contrast
that's an important thing.
Alan, we've done work with Akamai too, and a lot of that work has been around cloud workload portability, moving your workloads where the processing or data should be, but also security, application security. So cloud, when you think of CDNs, you never would have thought anybody in that space would be in the API security business, but they are, because it's all so much of that's going through their network, and they can either stop it or pass it through there themselves. So it's a great thing.
Agreed. Good stuff. By the way, the article that this discussion is based on is up over at techstrong.ai. It'll be in your notes. You can check it out there. Jon, you've been silent on this one.
Well, I'm just learning from the masters right now, and I'm also girding for a scream downstairs. Actually, my wife went to work.
Oh, she
I'm
left
a little
you
bit
at
on
home with
pins and
the
needles.
mouse.
Yeah, he's my co-host today. So, or she is. I find this really interesting. I remember what Anne was referencing about Cloudflare as this company, as well as Akamai. And yeah, you're right. This kind of curse of the AI bots and content being ripped off is an agonizing thing, and it's a very frustrating thing. And I'm glad it's being addressed. But in a case like this, in a segment like this, I'll be honest with you, I'm like the kid in the back of the class who's learning from the much smarter kids in the front and hoping you don't pass me to raise my hand or something.
Call your name, okay?
No. But I just, in a sense, though. So the beauty of this show, and I always wanted to say this on the show, is that you learn a lot along with the discursive conversation. And for me as a reporter, this is a great, I'm taking notes actually sometimes during these segments or often during these segments. So it helps me in my reporting. And that's why I love the mix of the people who are deep knowledge in tech versus marketing or like the journalistic approach.
And there's nothing about it with marketing. Don't get me wrong.
No, not at all. No, I actually
knowledge to be gained and learned in marketing. I do agree with you, John. I mean, and we should give a shout out. He's not here. He probably won't hear this, which is all good. But it's Mike Rizzard, our chief content officer, who, when he's not watching the Yankees play, is busy, drawing up the topics for every day's.
Yes.
I
miss Lisa. Yeah, Lisa Martin is not here. We miss her, and I really enjoy talking to her. I talk to her off camera as well for the marketing perspective because she opens my mind to things. Yeah. And again, it's a big equation, like anything. There are various different elements to any tech company that makes it interesting, or any topic that makes it interesting. So I kind of try to look at it from those different angles.
I mean, hey, that was when we were conceptualizing the Techstrong Gang. That was why we called it the gang, right? Because the idea here is that it's not just the people who work at Techstrong, but it's the Anns, it's the Lisas, it's Tracy Reagan and Chase Bannon and John Willis and Mark Hinkle, who was on yesterday, and so many of our friends that we've made over a long time in tech, let's call it.
No, I mean, it is an interesting dichotomy because Anne and I do a lot of TV shows that are for very broad mainstream audiences, and we don't have an element of expertise on those shows all the time. So we have to, in a sense, address certain, like the anchors or whoever, they have a certain mindset, which is exactly what their audience is. But when I came on here, which makes it very interesting, is it's this incredible eclectic mix of people with different expertise, viewpoints, and I think it makes it much more interesting than the classic kind of question-answer approach.
Yeah, no.
They don't go very deep on those shows.
We don't do that. We don't like to do that.
Not that we do.
But some of us go deep, Mitch.
Okay.
You may not remember, but some of us go deep.
Oh, I think you guys go very deep. Like was it yesterday? The patent discussion. I mean, that was like,
yes,
because I missed that one.
I was sorry. Yeah, that was.
Oh, the trolls. You missed the trolls.
Yes, I hadn't written about that in 10 years. I
deal with that every day. I'm looking at you, copy track in Germany. Okay. Anyway.
So that's my long-winded answer.
You know what? I appreciate you bringing it up. I appreciate our gang members who contribute to all this. And most of all, I appreciate our audience. I hope you guys appreciate the discussion because that's why we do it. Anyway, hey, congratulations to Cloudflare on their anniversary, birthday, celebration, whatever, and really a nice release of new functionality here that I think will help us all. Let's take another break here on the gang, though, and come back for our third block. Come sail away. We'll be right back. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
Hey everyone, we're back here on Techstrong Gang. For our third block today, I wanted to go to a video that I recently played on Techstrong TV of an interview I did. And it's with let me see if I remember, his Marine director or director Marine. He's Marine director of Siemens, division of Siemens. And of course, we all know Siemens. The fellow's name is Dmitry Pankratov. And Dmitry's a maritime guy, right? He's been in the maritime world his entire career, probably 30 years. And what was really interesting about it was they worked with Team USA sailing at the recent Paris Olympics. And for the first time in, 8, 10, 12, maybe 16 years, Team USA actually medaled. The Team USA sailing team medaled at Paris. And they gave some credit to it, to the digital twinning work that was done using this Siemens software. And I spoke to Dmitry about it. It was a great interview. It was a great example of how digital twinning can help real world situations. Let's roll to the tape and then we're going to come back and discuss it. Here's Dmitry Pankratov of Siemens. Hey everyone, welcome back here to Techstrong TV. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I've got a great story to share with you folks here today. Let me introduce you to Dmitry Pankratov. Dmitry is the Marine Director over at Siemens Digital Industry Software. I hope I got all of that right. Dmitry, welcome to Techstrong TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great pleasure being here. Thank you.
I think it's a great pleasure to have you on. Dmitry, we're going to be talking about how Siemens, and a lot of people, this is going to be new to them. We're going to talk in a little bit about how Siemens has helped Team USA Sailing to win its first Olympic medal since 2016. And it's quite a story. You would think, how the heck did a company like Siemens and Siemens Digital help a sailing team? We're going to get to that in a second. But before we do, I wanted to kind of ask you to share with our audience a little bit about you, right? Who are they listening to? I said you're the Marine Director. I'm not even sure what a Marine Director is. But tell us the Dmitry Pankratov story.
Yes. So my story is pretty simple. I'm just passionate about shipbuilding and maritime business in general. So when I was just 8 years old, I felt like, oh, that's a very interesting industry, and I would like to be part of that. And since then, it's just, I'm stuck to this industry. I'm doing my best, to do as much as possible, as much collaboration and interaction with this industry. So, for instance, it's a very international industry. So I did my PhD in China. Then after the defense, I moved to Norway. And in Norway, I was teaching at university, again, the maritime things. And then after that, I got an invitation to join a Lloyd's Register, which is the eldest classification society, maritime classification society based in London. And that was really hands-on experience. So I was part of technical investigation department. And this department is it's like a short notice department. If something happening on the shipyard or vessel, they can call us and say, listen, can you please come to Singapore or Panama tomorrow and fix our vessel? And that was my job for nearly 6 years. And then I got invited to join the Royal Institution of Naval Architects in the position of technical director. And again, it's very international organization. It's a professional body. And we had a very interesting collaboration with the different companies, individuals, and so on. And then just last year, after Royal Institution of Naval Architects, so I joined Siemens Digital Industry Software. But I would say that because I'm so passionate about the maritime industry, so even like if I have a spare time, I do something related to the maritime business. I do sailing, I do swimming, I do model making, and again, it's ship model making. these kind of things. And recently, so for this year, I had I had two main challenges. One is cross Atlantic Ocean on the wooden boat using the traditional navigation tools. So it was the sextant and the depth reckoning. And the second one was actually to swim from Europe to Asia in the Dardanelles Strait. That was only a few weeks ago. So that's why,
that's amazing. Well, your passion comes through even in your voice and your face. But let me dive in there a little bit. So a wooden boat, like a Viking or Norse kind of boat, or more like maybe, we don't have Spanish galleons anymore, but, what kind of wooden boat was it?
Is it 18th century lager? So that vessel was designed in northern France to chase smugglers, because obviously that time it was quite an interesting trade happening between England and France. So it's a very interesting design. So it's a three mast boat, about the 20 meters long, wooden, and this exact replica of that boat.
Was it only sail powered, or was there an engine?
Yeah.
Oh, sailing.
No.
So you sailed the Atlantic.
Exactly. So it was no engine. Well, it was engine, but we didn't use this cross Atlantic whatsoever.
That's amazing. How cool is that? And then, look, not everyone is geographically tuned in. They hear swimming from Europe to Asia, and they may think you're going around the Horn of Africa. And that's, you didn't make that swim. But, there's the land bridge, Turkey, for many, many years, what is today Turkey, was the bridge from Asia to Europe, right? And the Bosphorus Straits and the Manila Straits, as you mentioned, really are where you can swim on one side on Europe, go through, and you're in Asia. How long a swim is that, to give us some sort of scale?
So for me, it was my first experience. That's why I was not. I was happy with my time. So it's 4.5 kilometers, and it took me 1 hour and 48 minutes.
That's fantastic. That's about, for us Americans who are metric challenged, that's probably, it's over 10 miles, right? So that's a decent swim. Good for you.
No, I think it's less than that. So it's 4.5 kilometers. I don't think it's 10 miles.
No. Isn't it? Oh, no, it's 2 kilometers per mile? Right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I had it reversed. I told you we're metric challenged. It's still a nice swim, though, and good for you. And I'm glad to at least, I guess the water was clean enough for you to swim in, which is more than we could say for the river during the Olympics, where, some of the swimmers got sick in the triathlon. We're going to talk more about the Olympics in a second. I think we understand why you're the marine director over here, but for those of our audience who maybe are not familiar with Siemens digital industry software, give us, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it's quite an interesting segment of the maritime industry and Siemens business. So it's not about building or producing the physical assets. It's about the software, because now there are a lot of opportunities to make, for instance, simulations, the digital simulation of the real asset. So before, let's say, building a plane or a vessel, so there is a very good opportunity to simulate this, to test in a digital environment, to find the best design, the optimal design, to check against different conditions, different, let's say, weather states, the sea states, and so on, to find the real optimal point, and then build this actual vessel. So it's a part of the a very well recognized design process, just to have simulation and digital tests of the actual asset. And that's exactly what we do. So we develop in the software for this, and I'm focusing on the maritime side. So we're collaborating with the shipyards, with the ship designers, with the classification societies, to make sure that future designs of our vessels are the best ones.
So I've heard this sort of process referred to as digital twinning. Right, we make a digital twin of the real world. In this case, a vessel. It could be an airplane, could be a car, building. And then with that digital twin of the in real life IRL property, we can then test it in a virtual environment to, as you said, find out. It's not just testing to see if a ship can go faster, safety issues, security issues. There's a lot of places where we're using this digital twinning kind of technology today to improve things before we start investing a lot of money and manpower into actually building the physical structures. So, excellent. If you don't mind, let's talk about this Olympic story. So you guys, I guess, partnered, or Team USA Sailing employed some Siemens digital industry software technology. And I'm not saying that's the reason they got a medal, but it didn't hurt, as they say, right? It probably helped. Tell us a little bit about that.
So probably I should start with the main challenge first, because obviously sailing been around us for thousands of years. It's something like we already have a very good knowledge and experience. So the challenge comes that now every year on every race or competitions, so we're trying to push, the boundaries. We're trying to do something better and better. And at some point we realize that, okay, I think we achieved the maximum for the vessels actually sailing in the water, because the resistance of the water, the wave resistance, is actually quite high. And obviously you can get something of the wind power, to move the vessel, but it still is quite a significant resistance. And then the next kind of level, it was like, okay, what if we place the vessel out of the water? So we have some sort of, planning house, or like using hydrofoils, to dynamically put the vessel out of the water and then reduce the resistance, the wave resistance on that. And it's a great concept, because obviously by doing that, you can achieve significantly higher speeds compared to the usual boats, because obviously will be less wave resistance, and at the same time, so it will be like a very nice and light structures. The challenge is stability, because once the vessel is out of the water, then the stability becomes a real challenge. So you have to kind of maintain the position of this boat, which is not touching the water. It's only like a few hydrofoils is actually still in the water. And this is, it's a great challenge how to do that. And these are like digital twin technologies, as you mentioned. It's exactly, designed for this. So instead of trying to have like, trial on the actual vessel, on the actual boat, because it might be quite a difficult experience to move these hydrofoils around to find the optimal position. So you can use the digital environment for that. So you can test and find the best position, the best load, the best configuration and arrangement for these hydrofoils. And that's exactly what was done in the US sailing. So they used our product. We supported them with that. And they used our product to find the best design, the optimal location of the hydrofoils, and the optimal strategy how to use those hydrofoils in order to, to not just to displace the vessel, not to put the vessel out of the water, but in order to control this in the right way, that the hydrofoils in the boats are actually pretty stable, and you can achieve very high results. So in that sense, it's quite an interesting concept, because it's a newly developed. So for instance, in Tokyo Olympic Games in 2020, it's was only one class with the hydrofoil. So it was kind of a new concept. Now in this Olympic Games in 2024, it's already 5 classes. So you see how it's kind of rapidly recognized and developed in the maritime industry. And definitely in the future, it will be one of the major, advancement for the sailing boats. And this is quite interesting, combination of digital and real environment and how we can use those together.
Absolutely. One thing about competitive athletics, any competition, is once one side is perceived to have an advantage by deploying a new technique or a new technology or something like that, immediately it's a bit of a copycat league, right? A copycat sport where everyone will say, okay, I've got to do that because it worked for them. And So I'm wondering, have you already seen maybe other nations, other teams, other industries saying, hey, this worked for them, we'd like to try it out here? Or maybe it's too soon yet.
It's a very good question, because because I mainly focus on the commercial shipping, just imagine the container ship, tankers, the cruise liners, those kind of vessels. And obviously we are far away from the sailing competition in terms of the technologies. But at the same time, we are looking, with a great attention about, what's actually happening on the sailing industry, on the racing, because this is exactly the learning curve that we would like to employ in our commercial shipping. So it's those races, the sailing boats, it's kind of like a benchmark for us, just to understand, like, okay, where is the potential to improve the commercial shipping? Because in commercial shipping, unfortunately, it's very traditional, it's very solid, it's very difficult, to move this technology, very conservative. And that's why we need these smaller boats and yachts in order to understand, for us to understand the potential, how to improve the commercial shipping. So that's why it's a very interesting concept, and that's why we are very passionate about looking at the smaller boat and the folding boat and the usual digital technologies, digital twins for the boats, in order to to use the same lesson learned for the commercial shipping.
Absolutely, Dimitri. I think we spoke off camera. You're based in London now. I've had from when you're royal, your position with the royal service there, but of course, anyone around the world can engage Siemens Digital Industries and anyone in the maritime industry. What website would be the best way to kind of engage, you think, or to get more information?
Yeah, so definitely, again, I would refer to the digital environment, because we have very well developed website and social media. So it's everyone wanted to get in touch with us. So probably website would be the best way forward, or otherwise it would be on the social media like LinkedIn or somewhere. It would be a good starting point. But the good point about Siemens, so we have offices literally in every country.
Everywhere.
So definitely it will be someone around nearby you who actually have some sort of connection with Siemens.
I love it, Dimitri. Keep up exploring and doing these things you're doing. It's what makes life exciting. Congratulations on the work of Siemens Digital Industries on this. It's great that it's helped a team win an Olympic medal, but the applications here go far beyond that, obviously, and it'll be interesting to see how this continues to develop. Thanks for being with us today on Techstrong TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All righty. Dimitri Pankratov, Marine Director, Siemens Digital Industry Software, here on Techstrong TV. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. I hope you enjoyed that video. We're going to discuss digital twinning, but before we do, some situations just lend themselves to this, right? Couldn't help but think of the Styx song, Come Sail Away. And I would sing it for you, but I wouldn't inflict that damage on you. But it's one of my favorite songs by a band I'm very, very fond of. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and Renegade is the anthem of the Steelers, right? Old Mama, I'm in fear of my life from the Lord Mom of the Law. They play it every fourth quarter at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, and we've had tremendous success. But Come Sail Away, man, the last time I sang this song, I'll be honest with you, I was on a boat traveling, a charter boat we chartered to do some snorkeling from Lanai to Maui in that area during whale season. And what a great time. I think it was a lot of vodka and other spirits passed around, and we killed the song, though I probably sang it terribly. But, John, what a great song by Styx. We were talking, Anne, and
yes.
Come Sail Away.
I have a little knowledge of Come Sail Away and of Renegade, because I just watched a podcast where Dennis DeYoung, who's doing a lot of interviews, because I think he's nearing the end of I guess he has his Styx band So there's, if anyone doesn't know the history, the band members broke up, and Dennis DeYoung is at war, or has been at war with Tommy Shaw and James Young for years, like 25 years. They last played together in 1999 in Florida, of all places, during a television telethon. If you go on YouTube, you can see their final performances, and it was really good, but there was a lot of tension on stage. Anyway, Come Sail Away, Dennis DeYoung says that he wrote that song like in 10 minutes while he was in Hawaii, and he started Dream Like France, and he wrote it. In Renegade, he claims that song was supposed to be a very slow song, but he convinced Tommy, this is debatable, to make it a faster version and to speed it up. So that's the extent of my stick knowledge. And I will also tell you that Anne and I, full disclosure, used to do this a lot. We used to do a lot of karaoke, which included sticks back in the day.
Oh yeah, it sure did. Especially
absolutely. Well, I also love Lady. I mean, Styx.
Lady's great, yeah.
For those who maybe are not familiar with the band, go check out whatever your favorite music provider is.
From Chicago, the south side of Chicago.
What's interesting is the real... So Tommy Shaw and Dennis DeYoung were the kind of two front guys. But the real heart of the band was the two brothers, the bass and drummer. Yes. I think one of them passed away, if I'm not mistaken.
John was an alcoholic who drank himself to death, basically. Yes, he died a long time ago. And then his brother is still alive, Chuck. He performs occasionally with them on stage.
Right. They're touring as Styx, not with Dennis DeYoung. It's Tommy and
It's Tommy Shaw, James Young, Panazzo sometimes, this new guy.
Yes.
Not new guy. He's been there with the band for longer than DeYoung, actually. He's the keyboard player.
Absolutely. But Dennis DeYoung was the front man. When they would spotlight him on the piano and he'd sing Lady or Come Sail Away, it was they put on quite a show.
Yes.
But we could go two ways here, guys. We could continue talking about rock and roll, which I'd love to, and I bet our audience would too.
Yeah.
But it is Techstrong, and we got to kind of turn it back to digital twinning. So what do we mean by digital twinning? Well, what the folks at Siemens did is they basically digitally cloned the USA sailing vessels and every kind of dimension and feature that you could think of there. Then put it in a digital environment that sought to recreate the conditions in which they were competing, and then try to optimize what tactics, what courses, what actions to take to maximize speed and performance. And then fed that back into Team USA, and then Team USA in real world would practice it, and they would compare that to the digital twin and improved it. And as I said, for the first time in a very long time, Team USA medaled at the Olympics. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, John, it was great, but go ahead.
It was interesting. Interesting interview with Dimitri, really, really fascinating stuff. And it reminded me of F1 in a certain way. So over the years, I've had the privilege, the honor to cover a couple of races when I used to work at USA Today. So I went to Austin for an F1 race, and they let me down into the pits and into the control room. This was basically like a miniature data center.
Yeah.
They had banks, computers, servers, and they had a link to England. This is the Ferrari team. They had a link to England, basically, where they, to the thousandths of a second, could improve every part of the car. It was incredibly fascinating. And I think now you kind of fast forward, we've got Oracle, Red Bull team, we've got AMD, Mercedes, AMG, Petronas, Lenovo, Salesforce, AWS, all have deep global sponsorships with F1, which makes it this is a credible endeavor. And I think also about the America's Cup and Oracle and how, 2013, how they had this incredible comeback. And a lot of it had to do with the technology. And I actually see, and here's a topic we always love to talk about. I know we've done this before about sports and how younger audiences are kind of drawn to this kind of sophisticated dare I say, geeky approach to sports and how it incorporates technology. So when I saw your piece, it gave me a flashback to all these fond memories and the reasons why I think these sports are so popular worldwide.
Well, it's for every sport. You look at golf, right? You know, the legend of Ben's Bagger, he's picking up a wooden cane for a golf club and swinging versus the super titanium, carbon-based, computer-generated, aided design of the clubs they use now. The technology that a Tiger Woods uses versus the technology that even a Jack Nicklaus used is so. The same thing goes for racing. The same thing goes car racing. The same thing goes obviously now for sailing vessels as well. So, and I think you're right. There is a geek element to sports, right?
So there was I just jog my memory of another thing. I'll say this and I'll get it out of the way. But these are things that really stuck with me. There was an NBA All-Star game in New Orleans that I covered, and in the SAP did a lot of work with the NBA. They still do. They were showcasing as part of their NBA weekends this program they put together, and it basically diagrams where every shot is taken during a game by each individual, yes, the time the shot was taken, and it gives you an idea. It gives the players an idea of how effective they are from different parts of the floor. Based
also,
on,
from a defender's point of view, where are they likely to shoot from? You get that in basketball, you get it in hockey, you get it in football as well. Even in baseball, show me. I see the diagram of who hits to left field, right field, center field, how often, and then it affects your shifts and everything.
Well, the funny thing.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was going to say, but the one thing I was going to mention is during this, Chris Bosh, who was a fantastic basketball player, whose career was cut by injury.
Yeah,
Miami Heat, played for Toronto. He had an engineering degree from Georgia Tech. And I remember interviewing him, and he was absolutely fascinated. He actually helped them develop the program with SAP. So I saw like this integration between the players, the company, and then the teams themselves, the coaching staff. So it's just fascinating.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time because we've got to break out of here, but I will tell you that this whole digital twinning thing, it goes beyond sports, right? Whether we're designing buildings or communities or other systems, the idea of recreating it in a digital environment to see how it plays out and to optimize, we've just started scratching the surface on this stuff, and it's coming, and AI is going to accelerate it. So, if you haven't gotten familiar with digital twinning, I think you really owe it to yourself to do it. On that note, come sail away. I'm not singing it, but John, thanks for the Sticks insight. That's what makes the gang great. And thank you for joining us today. We ran a little bit late, but we got to get moving. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll be back Monday with some great new content, but for those in the path of this Hurricane Helene, whether it's Florida or Georgia or wherever it's heading, stay safe, stay out of the way of that, and we'll see you all Monday. This is Alan Schimmel. We're out.